Alright lads, back for another round. Oh, let's see what vile consequences we have to put up with from our terrible decision making this time, eh? Probably we'll get fired, voted out, and then executed in all likelihood. What do you reckon? Next round, is it? Valen operations a mixed success. Valen President Victor Schmalak is drawing his operations against the Bludish Freedom Front to a close. The consensus is that while Valen's army went a long way towards neutralising the Bludish threat, there were many preventable casualties. Furthermore, despite Valen's best efforts, not all hideouts have been eradicated, and anti-Schmalak sentiment is at an all-time high among the remaining insurgents. Oh, no surprise there, but that's how it's not as bad as I was scared that it could possibly be. Alright. Cool. Damn, how long has it been since I last clicked the next turn button? A couple of vids at least, surely. Chapter 3, Victim of Changes. Here we go. Achievement unlocked. Call from Marcel Caronti. Got some news. And got some reports. Alright, let's do the news, then the reports, then the call. What's the Radical have to say? World ignores Bludish plight. Yeah. Valgish man shot after burning Agnolian flag. Yep. Alright. Tensions rising there. What do we got here? BFF recruitment. It is reported that in the villages around Suzerain, a group of missionaries are seeking to recruit militants to fight for the BFF. Governor Bron reported that the gendarmerie forces in the area are now actively working towards eliminating the threat. Good. So we're pre-positioned for that. That's perfect. I just definitely don't want to miss any diplomatic communiques. Alright, call from Marcel Caronti. I was in my office looking through the agenda for the upcoming meeting at the Ministry of Economy. The meeting was going to be about the ownership of the Big Four, the four largest companies in Swordland. Heart of Swordland, Burgess Steel, Swordish State Corporation and Nedarm Mining Group. Alright, steel and mining. So, primary and industrial. Some of these industries were controlled in part or entirely by the state. The others were mostly or completely privatised. I had the power to change that. The phone rang and I put the agenda down. Pick up the phone. Greetings, Mr. President. Sorry to disturb you before such an important meeting, but I thought now would be a good time to talk about our arrangement. I'm sure you'll agree that the support I and my network have given your administration has been nothing but beneficial. Half of the non-state media in the country has been sharing positive news about you and downplaying negative events. Fantastic. Our partnership has been successful so far. There's always more you could be doing for us. I haven't been seeing any benefits yet. Cool, play a middle course. I'm glad you agree. Your public opinion could have nosedived were it not for us. Oh yeah, I heard him knock on wood. On another note, I wanted to thank you for choosing Underhall Construction to complete the L1 railway. The Mayor of Conriar, Chris Shah, is a close friend and an investor in Underhall, and your contracting of the firm has tripled his returns. Underhall has been a pleasure to work with. They made our opening a success. That's true. The decision wasn't necessarily made to benefit you, Marcel. Also true, but he doesn't necessarily need to know that. Also, I don't want to lead him up the garden path because then when I have to reveal the truth later on, it could lead to bad blood. Then I don't want to make political enemies. It is the #1 construction company in Swordland, after all. Moving on, out of goodwill I wish to share a key piece of information. The Lotharberg Group has contingency plans if you decide to do anything rash that would disrupt their empires. You can't blame them, can you? Imagine something trying to take your authority and personal wealth away without your consent. And I'll have to deal with whatever I decide. It's a tough world. We will only ask for a reasonable share, nothing out of the ordinary. I don't see why we should be enemies. Tut tut tut. I don't see why we should be enemies. Exactly. If everyone plays their cards right, it will all be fine. Yeah, that's right. Now, let's talk about those cards. Since the start of your campaign, you've wisely committed to a market economy. Judging by that, I'm sure you are looking into privatising some of the companies that are currently state-owned. True. I believe, therefore, that privatising both Nedam Mining Group and the Swedish State Corporation would be in both of our interests. After all, I am considering buying stocks in both companies. Let me... Secretary, write that down, please. Oh, yes, sir. I'll do it right away. Nedam Mining Group. Don't beat me, master. Swedish State Corporation. It will happen, I promise. Do you guys ever used to play 40k back in the day? Chaos Troops always had great voice lines. Alright, a note of those. Privatising both might be too much. I'll see what I can do. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep, excellent. Great minds do think alike. Thank you for your support. Before we end the call, there is actually one more thing I would like to discuss. I will be blunt. Mr. Tusk is unfit to be spokesperson for the Lotherberg Group. His archaic thinking has only preserved a status quo that benefits himself and precious few others. It is high time something changed. I won't meddle in oligarchs' affairs. I see where this is going. Who do you have in mind to replace him? Who do you think? Me, of course. Here's what I propose, a win-win situation. If you promised me a majority of shares from the privatisation, he would lose considerable power, which means I could take over. You may recall that one of the terms of our agreement was that I may ask you for one favour. Well, this is it. Do you accept? Well, that's true, actually. I did agree. Of course, deal's a deal. Corontes always keep their word, my father said. He would have liked you. I've taken up enough of your time today. This has been a productive call. Alright. So, I also need to give Coronte maximum shares. Right, just had to take a phone call with a consultant, you lads. So, what are we up to? Making business deals. And I did take a note of the things I needed to do. See how important that was? It all worked out in the end. Nedam Mining Group, Swedish State Corporation, and give Coronte the maximum share. Fantastic. Thanks, Marcel. Talk to you later. Great. After a couple of minutes, I went back to reviewing the agenda. Oh, is that not going to happen right now? What have we got in the news? Refugees suffer because of rain. Yep. And read the report from Suzerain. Illegal crossings rise at the Valen border. Perfectly predictable. Now, click on that. Good. And nothing else going on up there. Just this guy. Alright, read the report from Wholesword. General Staff releases positive statement. Earlier this week, the General Staff held a meeting in which Josef Lankea had voiced his pleasure to work under the administration. According to rumours, Lankea said, "The current president is a man of tradition, strong and decisive." I had worked with President Sol before. I know President Sol, he is my friend, and I know that he is proud of what President Anton has achieved. Fantastic. Requested meeting of Lucian Gallarda. Excuse. Swallowed a sandfly. Lucian scheduled some time with me to discuss the potential political repercussions of the upcoming economy meeting. He arrived on time as usual and took his right seat across from me. "Good morning, Mr. President." He had dark circles below his eyes. The plethora of political developments must have been weighing even on a workaholic like him. You look tired. Are you getting enough sleep, mate? I am trying to, sir. Alright. I booked some of your time to pre-plan for today's meeting at the Ministry of Economy. We need to be cautious. Any grand plans about the economy also heavily influence our political standing. We would be changing our relationship with the old guard, the oligarchs, and the opposition. As you know, this meeting will give you the opportunity to alter the ownership of the Big Four, the largest corporations in all of Swordland. We can start the process of nationalisation or privatisation, or we can just keep the status quo. Again, I remind you that any change will tip an already fragile balance. I personally think we should stay out of this and keep things as they are. There is no need to make new political enemies at this stage in our term, but ultimately the decision is yours. What are you leaning towards? How should we move forward? We will aim to nationalise these companies. We will avoid upsetting the economic structure and maintain the status quo. We will aim to privatise these companies. I have to ask why. What's your intention? Privatisation will help bring the country out of recession? That is correct. The oligarchs are powerful. They might aid us in the assembly if we help them. Potentially true, but not really what I'm looking for right now. Truth be told, I don't care what anyone thinks or says. I will do what I believe in. God, man, imagine being that pig-headed, eh? That may certainly be true, but taking everything out of state hands may have dire repercussions in a country like ours. We need to tread carefully. One thing to remember is that since you've been transparent about promoting a market economy, privatisation will not cost us much support. Fantastic. I received a report from the Ministry of Economy that may impact your decision. Unfortunately, we have missed our government budget targets for the current quarter. The plan to change the ownership of important assets could help us generate much-needed resources to further improve economic development before the next election. Yes. Just something to consider, as is our relationship with the oligarchs. Alright. We need to remember that they only care about their own profits. Yeah, you don't need to remind me of that, mate. Unfortunately, we aren't on good terms with them. This situation has been obstructing some of our efforts with the economic recovery. However, if we implement a privatisation plan, they would surely be delighted. More good news. Still, we need to make sure that we don't go overboard with it. If we do, we might lose our base, both in the USP and among the people. Alright. If we privatise only a part of their companies, perhaps we can get out of this unscratched. We don't want the Lotha Group to be our enemies. It'll endanger our re-election. To save our country from recession, privatisation is a must. It's always nice when you get to play the good guy, right? As I mentioned, we need to be careful. Some of my connections indicate that there seems to be a contest for leadership in the Lothaburg Group. Really? How interesting. It looks like Marcel Caronti is making moves to become the key figure. Well, how about that? Caronti probably wants his father's seat as the head of the group, and Tusk doesn't want to let go of it. It's a significant power struggle, considering these are the heads of Sordland's two largest private corporations. If we over-privatise our state-owned companies, the Swordish State Corporation and Nedam Mining Group, it could result in the balance tipping to one side. Those are the two that we're going to privatise. They would fight over buying up shares and cause chaos. Since you have already made the decision to privatise, you need to be decisive in your follow-up actions. Did Marcel or Tusk contact you? Yes, I received a call from Marcel. What did he ask for? He wanted to make a deal to leave HOS untouched. Is that what he did? Yeah, don't worry, I have it under control. Mr. President, if you're not transparent with me, I can't help you to the best of my ability. Very well, sir, I won't push you further. At any rate, this internal conflict among the oligarchs puts us in an interesting position. Our relationship with Walter Tusk hasn't been good so far. Any move we make now has to be calculated and thought through. $50cc scooter sounds like a swarm of bees. Alright. Who's this guy? I think I might have talked to him before, but I don't really recognise him. Well, anyway, if he hasn't been good to us and we have a really good deal with the other guy, obviously we're going to support the guy that we have a good deal with, right? Okay, very well then, it's almost time. I will inform Mr. Hull of your decision. We'll make the necessary preparations to formulate a plan. I must get back to work now. See you at the next meeting. Thank you for your time, sir. Bloody, 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 blah. Still nothing from those. Geopolitico. Tensions keep rising in the Marquian Sea. According to reports from the Agnolian government, the Valgslandian fleet, which has been patrolling the Marquian Sea, was directly responsible for the disappearance of 2 fishing vessels, a drilling ship and an oil tanker. The Valgslandian fleet, which has been patrolling the Marquian Sea, was directly responsible for the disappearance of 2 fishing vessels, a drilling ship and an oil tanker. You leave our big boy oil tankers alone. That belonged to Agnolia. Prime Minister Van Herten called the Alliance of Nations to investigate the incidents. Prime Minister Van Houten condemned Chancellor Hagel in his speech yesterday, saying, "The Chancellor is trying to imprison us in our homes with his show of strength, but he should know Agnolians are not scared. We are always ready to fight for our home." Well, this second one doesn't matter, but this escalation is interesting. Read the report from Avery, Valg's on Navy active in the Marquian Sea. Yeah, we already know that. Okay. Ownership changes of major corporations. Greetings everyone, welcome to the Ministry of Economy. Without further ado, we are of course here today to discuss our economic shift towards privatisation. Mr. President, before you arrived, Michaela and Edith were expressing their delight at your decision to go down this path. Wonderful news, I'd say. I'm glad we're staying firmly on the path to a market economy. This is certainly the right decision. It will boost our economy, put more money in circulation, and give the government much needed funds. It's a win-win situation for sure. Great. I'm glad we're on the same page. Certainly. Let's move on to how we can go about implementing a privatisation plan. Please turn to page 6. Flutter Flutter. The Swedish State Corporation, or SSC for short, has been around for over half a century. Most recently they have been handling a wide range of state construction projects. In their portfolio they have government buildings, various infrastructure projects, state libraries, embassies, basically anything government related. Privatising a company like this would certainly increase the government's budget. That of course would result in lots of opportunities for us to provide for our citizens. Fantastic, so net benefits all round. The funds would also be used to boost our popularity, especially with the elections approaching, not to mention the various other areas in which we can and should spend money. However, there is one catch. The Conservative majority of the USP would not like this decision at all. For them, these state companies are part and parcel of Swedish identity. Why? That's so weird. If we privatise these companies entirely and sell too many shares in them, it will have consequences for us in the Assembly. What would be the effects if we fully privatise the Swedish State Corporation? We would gain tremendous amounts of money for the government. We can invest that money in future government projects which would popularise our administration, increasing the chances for our re-election. That popularity might not make up for losing the lion's share of the Conservative votes. Conservatives comprise the majority of the Assembly. If we hurt their national pride, they'll turn on us. I am against full privatisation. We shouldn't make enemies at this stage. What about selling a majority share? Certainly a good option. The state would keep some of SSC's operations under control and the government would have a lot of gains. I am leaning towards this option myself. Retaining control while increasing our budget, I don't see a downside. And what if we sell a minority share? It'd be better than nothing, but why stop there? A minority stake wouldn't help our government as much. We need to be decisive. On the other hand, a minority share would create less friction. This would be my preference. Okay, let's move on to the next option. Page 26, Nedam Mining Group. One of the largest mining corporations in eastern Merkapa, let alone Swordland. They call themselves the leaders of the world in coal. They certainly have enough evidence to back that up. Perhaps they are not as large as SSC, but will still have a lot to gain if Nedam Mining Group is privatised. I fully support privatisation of this company to any extent. Certainly a good option to gain enough capital to end the recession once and for all. Hell yes. I have contacts in Nedam as one of the most valuable corporations of the last decade. I can vouch for that. I have personal experience with the company myself. It will be a great addition to any portfolio. What would be the effects if we fully privatised Nedam Mining Group? A very profitable sell. I know many people who would kill to have a portion of that company. I do think this is a good option. We could simply fully privatise Nedam along with SSC to bring in a large influx of money to the government. Mr. President, I hate to repeat myself, but fully privatising one state-owned company, let alone two, will anger our Conservative voter base. All the budget in the world won't matter if you aren't re-elected. What are your thoughts on selling a majority share? My preference is selling a majority share of both SSC and Nedam. It would give us the most value. I think we should go with this choice. This still might generate a backlash from the Assembly and the general public. We should go for a minority share instead. Yeah, blah blah blah, same as the other one, right? Lost opportunity. I am ready to make a decision. Sounds good. Let's go over to the document once again. Alright lads, what do you reckon? How are you leaning? At the level of the economy, I think fully selling both of them would be the best way forward. At the level of my personal political career, selling a majority a share of both of them, but not all, would be beneficial. I want to get back in again for the next election, but I want to make enough money that we can get the economy moving again. I think I'm going to fully sell one and majority share sell the other. That's going to split the difference between making huge quantities of money that we can immediately pump back into the economy via government spending, and if the guy that wants us to sell both of them totally, I say to him, I couldn't quite do that, I had to sell most of one of them rather than all of one of them, he'll definitely be happy with that. I don't think it would offend him anyway. Privatisation. The companies listed below represent the two largest state corporations which play a key role in several strategic industries. You can privatise them by selling a minority stake, a majority stake, or by selling them entirely to private interests. Alright, fully state-owned, majority state-owned, minority state-owned, fully privatised. I'm just really surprised that the Conservatives are so against privatisation. And this is another one of those tough decisions, lads. This is what I'm leaning to at the moment. We can't allow the interests of one man to overrule the interests of the nation. So we could minority state own both of them. And then that will cut the balance between giving us money to spend on the economy, maintaining a certain amount of investment in order to pacify the conservative wing of the party. I suspect this to be pretty angry with us if we do this. But we might be able to make up the difference with the money that we spend in order to get the economy going well enough that we can make up the votes through pure economic enthusiasm. Generally speaking, people vote where their food comes from rather than, their supposed commitments. Their ideological and intellectual commitments tend to get overruled by the ability to make money. Minority state owned. And it seems like the Conservatives care slightly more about the Swedish state corporation than they do about the mining group. And what's good for the nation is a good economy, which full privatisation will serve the interests of the most. Alright, I think this is the split I'm going to do. I am risking not getting re-elected from doing it this way. But I think I'm going to fly close to the sun on this one, lads. Yep. Alright. So, this is the path we're taking. I want to thank you, Mr. President. This decision will revitalise our economy. Eliminating recession completely is not so far off now. This will definitely show our trade partners that Suzerain is moving in the right direction, which in turn will increase trust, which means more income. An excellent decision, I have to agree. I'm not so sure about that. Fully privatising a state corporation might give us the budgetary boost required to help us end the recession, but we can only pave the way forward for Suzerain if we are leading the country from the top. So if we can turn the recession around before the next election, then I think we're in the clear. Mr. President, your decision will make us lose the support of many Conservatives in the Assembly. Of course, that includes the leader of the Conservative wing of your own party, Gloria Tory. I also want to remind you that the majority of the Assembly is Conservative. We have our work cut out for us. We can offset our losses in votes with our gains from this change. You're being too optimistic. I'm afraid of the reality. I will see what we can do, but this might be the hardest task you have ever given to me. I have complete trust in your capabilities, Lucian. I will do my best. If you'll excuse me, I have to get to work immediately. There is much to be done. So, I think that... Well, I'm certain that we will lose some Conservatives, but I would think that making the argument to them, look, I understand your hesitations, but the fact is pulling the nation out of a recession is far more important than individuals' commitment to the companies that we've worked for. Once we privatise these, that will turn the economy around. It is good for the people of the nation, and it is good. That means it's good for the nation. So if you are in fact the Conservatives that you claim you are, bite the bullet and support me as we get this done in order to be able to pull Sordland back into a place of profitability. And then once we have done that, pride in the nation will return, and we can move from there into a prospering of our conservative ideals for the nation as a whole, and from a position of strength. That position of strength that we hold will give the people the faith in the nation that they need in order to continue to carry Sordland into the future. I think if we make that argument, the Conservatives will probably bite the bullet and come with us on it. That will be it for today then. I know everyone has busy schedules. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Simon. My pleasure. What do you reckon? Government budget increased up to 2. Fantastic. Now our priority is finding ways to spend that money on the economy as quickly as possible. Alright, Unified Education Language Act. This is the one that makes it that Swordish is the only one that will be taught. Section 2 enforces the law through defunding penalties. Okay, let me just make sure that I've got this, understand this one correctly, rather than just pulling a trigger on it straight away. The UELA passes the following into laws. Section 1 enforces that the educational institutions of Sordland will teach all classes, except for foreign languages, in the official language of the country, unless they are given specific approval by the Ministry of Education. Yep, that's right. And Section 2 enforces the law through defunding penalties or total shutdown of schools. That's correct. Okay, sign that. I don't want to be using my veto power unnecessarily. Also, I think the Conservatives will be happy with the fact that we signed that, right? And the Nationalists will support our decision. So as we weave back and forth between the Libs and the Nationalists, we're going to try and keep them at the appropriate distance away, but not too far. And close enough, but not too far. Alright. Results of the economic decision. Caronte and Tusk into the conference room. The two men sat across the table from me, leaving an empty chair in between them. Good to see you, President. It's been a while. Here, take this. A gift. He brought out a bottle of Erlebury Maroon, 30-year-old. Nice one. I heard Peter say that you favour this one. Oof, what I wouldn't do for a snifter of 30-year-old right now, mate. Thank you for the gift. Anytime. Marcel burst out laughing. Old man, you always think so small. You lack the vision to see the bigger picture. Marcel approached me and we shook hands. Nice to see you, Mr. President. A real gift. He took out a set of car keys from his pocket and gave them to me. Come take a look. I looked out on the road. On the road leading to the palace, I saw a glittering, brand new Randolphini sports car, a car that only the richest of the richest in Sordland could afford. It's yours. I can't take it. I want to. I can't take this. Of course you can. It's a gift. Surely better than a bottle of whiskey. Little boy, do you think I can't do better? Me, Walter Tusk? Well, thank you both. Let's begin the meeting. Sounds good. Gentlemen, please take your seats. So Mr. Tusk and Mr. Caronte, President Rain is about to sell private shares in Sordland's two largest national corporations, and now you're here showering him with gifts. You're both clearly more skilled at business than you are at subterfuge. So tell us, why do you deserve to claim these shares before they go on the general market? Walter cleared his throat. President, listen, we, you and I, have been on the best of terms lately, but I want to nurture a profitable relationship between us where we both win. These shares are very important to me. If I had them, I could do so much more for Swordland and so much more for you. You haven't even seen what I and my connections are capable of. Well, if he hasn't been doing it already. And I don't care what it does for me, I care what it does for the nation. Do you want to get re-elected? No problem, I will make sure of it. This is my offer to you. I will do whatever it takes to make you president for another term. Doesn't that sound great? Enticing. I will think about it. Good, I hope you come to the right conclusion later. Now, before you spew those big words, make sure you can actually do it, Walter. Mr. President, first off, Mr. Tusk here is lying about the extent of his influence. True, he might have command over some people in the Assembly, but what he is sitting on top of right now was built by my father, Conrath Coronti. I want to be straightforward with you. If you give me the shares, I will topple this old man, which means I will have the same influence he does over the Assembly, and I can sway them as you like. But that is not all, Mr. President. Don't forget that I have something that gives me an edge over this man and his archaic ways. A powerful tool. Control over the media. I can give you power over both the Assembly and the Swordish public. Basically a guaranteed win. He could never ever hope to beat this offer. You little snake, you are 20 years early to be head of the Lothar group. I made the group what it is. But perhaps Marcel has a point. What is the decision, Mr. President? Yes, what's it going to be? Equally distributed, Marcel. Walter, I'm sick of these shenanigans. You'll have to squabble over the shares when they enter the market just like everyone else. Well, I've already agreed, unfortunately, that I am going to give it to Coronti. His name is Marcel Coronti. The shares will go to Marcel. Because as much as I would actually... What I would prefer to do is actually just put them out to the public and say, you guys have to spend them the same as you do with everything else. That would be the right manoeuvre. However, I have entrapped myself by my discussion with Marcel, and so I have to do this, because if I make a political enemy out of him now, that will definitely be the end of my political career, because he controls the media. What? Haven't you heard a word of what I said? It's all right, old man, you learned your place today. Thank you for your wise decision, Mr. President. I will arrange a small transfer as thanks. Very well, here's the paperwork. Achievement unlocked. Donations. Pro gamer move. You will need to sign here, here, and here. I think we all have very busy schedules. I will take my leave now. See you later, President. I will take my leave as well. Alright, hopefully this one doesn't come back to bite us in the arse, eh, lads? Personal wealth increased. 5. Still haven't found a way to spend that to kind of help out the economy. Oh, we got some news here. Police launch successful raids. Good. Privatisation of Nedam Mining Group. Correct. Rain determined to end the recession. That's correct. President Rain has shown that he has what it takes to stop the recession, as he announced the most ambitious plan to date. Complete privatisation of the Nedam Mining Group. Solving the recession may not seem an easy task, but this is a definitive step to end it once and for all. In the short term, the assets of Nedam Mining Group will be completely privatised and procured by the highest bidder. In the long term, this will trigger revitalisation of our economy by introducing a healthier competition in the Swordish marketplace. This healthy competition will be the key in stopping the recession due to the improved efficiency as the result of it. Privatisation is the solution to the recession, and President Rain has proven that this time he will fix the errors of his predecessors. Fantastic. Alright, let's read the report. As of today, the Nedam Mining Group is officially owned by Marcel Coronti. The CEO of Heart of Swordland is extremely grateful for our decisions and promises that the press will support the administration. However, there are voices of discontent within the USP, and we should be expecting some pushback within the Assembly. What do you reckon, lads? Have I played it correctly so that the balance of voting will still come out in our favour once the actual election goes through? Assembly vote, that looks a bit involved. Alright, let's wrap it up there. I'll see you next time, lads.